Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This is probably one of the funniest experiences I have had at this job. Today I went to work and it was pretty busy day. We had several pre-orders and also numerous people calling in for food. There is this regular customer she orders about 4 times a week who called in for a personal pizza and a chef salad. I told her the price and she says that she will be here in 15 minutes. Hangs up midway of me trying to tell her that it won't be ready for 30. I already knew in my soul that it was going to be an issue when she got here. She gets here and this is exactly how the conversation went. I tell her the pizza's in the oven and her salad will be getting prepared in 5 to 6 minutes, so in total it won't be ready for 15 more minutes.
I called 15 minutes ago. It should be ready.
Yes, and I tried telling you that it will take 30 minutes. There are other customers who ordered first.
So that shouldn't matter. I'm a regular customer. I should be a priority.
All of our customers are priorities. We go off a first come first serve basis.
That's insane. I want to speak to your manager.
Sure. Hi, I'm OP the manager. I'm sorry, but I'm the only manager available at the moment. How can I help you?
Do you think you're funny? Cancel my order. You just lost my money in support.
As you can see, I pointed to all of the other customers in the lobby. And I told her, your $13 isn't really making a dent with us. Have a nice day. She called the office on me, basically corporate, and jokes on her, they put her on the blacklist for all of our stores and even called the other stores in the area to warn them about her. We do regular events with them. A bit of context. Due to a brain injury a few years back, my father's motor skills haven't been the greatest. He can't operate machinery and his memory is awful. He can usually walk around fine if wobbly on most days, but when he's having a bad day he needs the help of a cane or a walker. And even then he can be pretty prone to falling over. No biggie and no ambulance needed as long as he doesn't hit his head. And he can easily get up with help. So he's with me as we're on a grocery run since he insists on baying. I am carting our stuff back to the car and he's hobbling alongside me with his cane. As it's a bit of an off day for him, I begin loading our stuff into the car when Dad takes a bit of a tumble. As I go over to help my dad stand, I nearly jump out of my skin as this nearby woman with kids sees us and practically screams. I gonna shoot her with a "what the hell lady" look while I'm helping him up. But this woman is just scowling at me and whispering into her phone. I helped my dad into the car so he could sit and catch his breath. While I finished putting up the groceries, I heard someone call out to me. I turned to see a police officer. Read it. Do you want to know what this Karen's reaction was to seeing a 50-something-year-old man with a cane falling over was? Apparently, other than screaming, it was to call the cops and report him for public drunkenness. I didn't even know that was a thing until it was explained to me. But apparently in my state, it's a Class C misdemeanor and you can get fined up to $500. A few questions and a breathalyzer test cleared my dad's name and we then asked to press charges against this woman. What kind of backwards worldview do you need to have in order to look at an elderly person who's fallen over, see that they have a cane and think, "Ew, a drunkard and a hazard to polite society"? Edit. Thanks to those who informed me that apparently the cop busting out the breathalyzer was uncalled for. If I had known, I definitely would have spoken up about it. Brush up on your local law, kids. It could save you some trouble. So before I begin, there are some things you need to know. When this happened, I was in a wheelchair for medical reasons. So I could still walk and move around, but doing so was a big risk because my legs have the possibility to give out at any point. So it started like any other day working at the drive-thru. I began by making a large container of sweet tea. Shortly following, the manager said that I was getting a new trainee, which I thought would be no problem. Fast forward to the lunch rush and I'm training the new hire and we're getting relatively busy, therefore, I had decided that it would be difficult to get the dishes done while serving customers. In turn, I asked a new guy if he would be able to get the dishes done for me while I handled the influx of people and proceeded to think nothing of it as he walked towards the dish pit. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed that he's on the phone. So I took a moment to ask him what he was doing, to which he responded that he was calling his mom to contact the manager so he didn't have to do the dishes. Wow. My initial reaction was disbelief in that he was actually calling his mother. Then that disbelief turned to silent anger, which prompted me to tell him to just continue his phone call in the manager's office and to stay out of my way. I then did something that I was not supposed to do at that time with my specific medical problems. With every fiber of mine being now fueled with the ire of 1,000 suns, I got out of my wheelchair and proceeded to run both the drive-thru and wash every single one of the dishes. As I began to trudge back towards my wheelchair, I collapsed due to the overexertion of my muscles. My manager made sure I was okay, and so I explained what took place with a trainee. He told me I was good to go home, and as I was leaving, I heard yelling at what I can only assume was aimed at the trainee. I think he got fired because I never saw him again. I also then got my first raise there. I still don't know why that irked me so much in that moment, but it was apparently enough to get me to risk my own health over. This one needs background to fully understand why I went out of my way for this revenge. My best friend was married for 10 years with his ex for a total of 13 years. He was absolutely head over heels in love with her like I had never seen before, which I never understood due to her alcohol abuse. She would take it out on him, and when he'd be venting about it, he'd always fall back on it's not her, it's the illness. A very respectable and admirable stance on it. Last year she asked for a divorce because after years of what I would call abuse, he had simply run out of gas. Her reasoning for asking for one? When she got fired for testing positive for weed, he wasn't empathetic enough. He admits he wasn't because it had come on the back of one of her drunken tirades where she told him he was a piece of crap who was always trying to control her, when all he ever tried to get her away from was booze for the way she treated him when she was drunk. It took him forever to move on from this, with a divorce following shortly after. And earlier this year, after thinking he was moving on, he called me to come over and he's in a bad condition. I arrive and he's absolutely fall down level of drunk. He was going on about how she didn't ask for a divorce for because she had really been cheating with several other people. The next morning, when he's more coherent, I asked him how he knew. He was cleaning out the spare room and selling/donating stuff he didn't need anymore, and when he went to clear an old tablet, she was still logged on and all of the evidence was there. He gets that out and says he's going back to bed and asks me to lock up when I leave. Before I left, I looked at the tablet. After seeing what I saw, I wanted to find a way to get even with the horrible and conniving woman. So I took pictures of it all and I left. When I got home, I started looking up information about these people. 2 of them were just normal guys. Whether they knew she was married or not, I don't know. But the third comes up as a registered sex offender, still on probation for being such a disgusting pile of crap. An address listed as 123 Lane City State. Chomo knew that she was married. I immediately knew what I was going to do. Chomo didn't live at 123 Lane. Chomo was living with a conniving ex. She made regular posts about their time together. On top of that, she is an avid weed user and has several firearms because she enjoys sport shooting. So I go into the state's sex offender site and make a report of Chomo not actually living where he's registered, and that Chomo is living in a home with what he has no right to being a convicted felon and on parole. I include screenshots of the social media post and all to back it up. I was thinking little would happen, but an inconvenience to their lives. And boy, was I wrong. She broke her typical boasts with nothing serious trend on social media yesterday, with this gem. Quote,
"My year can't get any worse. Chomo lost his job and I'm now facing eviction because I can't afford my rent."
And so I go on the state court system site to see if it's related. And yes, it was. Chomo was rearrested. She clearly can't post bail or Chomo will be out. The job she took after being fired definitely can support her lifestyle. So he's probably going back to prison or at least jail. and she's a breath away from being homeless. I don't know if I'd ever tell my best friend I was the one behind this, but he's definitely ecstatic to see a horrible woman and sewer rats get what they deserve. Part of me wants to put up the sex offender registration link and bet it's sitting in jail and say something to the effect of, "It's a little more than losing a job," but not wanting to make my best friend life harder, I'll just let sleeping dog lie. Context: my girl and I have recently moved into this new apartment complex that's definitely way overpriced compared to what you get. Also, to find out that it's not soundproof at all. I live on the second floor, and on the first floor is a motorbike garage. I live in Vietnam, so everyone rides motorbikes here. It's definitely way too loud, and you can hear other tenants coming in and out of the house like the doors and walls aren't even there. To top it off, there is a jail cell-like gate at the front door. Every time someone in the complex comes in or out of the house, it sounds like a nightmare, especially at 1 or 2 p.m. It's like having someone smash 2 heavy metal objects together next to your ears. Not to mention loud bikes. Other issues were like no internet for 2 weeks after we move in, electric outlet not working, and so on. Compliance. Anyways, after 2 months of this nonsense, we had enough and decided to move out. The owner wasn't happy, but she can't do anything because we only signed a 2-month contract, normally 3, but gut feeling told me to sign 2 only. She keeps trying to get us to show the apartment to new tenants because we work from home. At first, we thought what a hassle. Then it hit us that we should be warning these people of how bad it is living here. So for the next 2 weeks, every tenant coming to see the apartment, we explained to them exactly how bad it was. Of course, if no one else from the apartment complex side comes along. If there was someone coming with them, we would be trying to give signs of some sort, such as shaking our heads or signing no with our mouth behind the owner's back and so on. Most of the new tenants understood the sign straight away and walked away with a happy face. The most satisfying part was when couples with newborn babies coming to see the apartment or young single moms. Hell, I sleep easy, but with a gate situation downstairs, the babies and their moms would definitely have a hard time here. It was so satisfying to let them know that how much of a nightmare and overpriced this apartment is, and that they are better off at other places. It made our day much better knowing that we did something good. First things first, this is a story from my dad's life. My dad is from Eastern Germany and was born in the 60s, so he spent his whole childhood and youth and the beginning of his adulthood in this country. Part of becoming an adult in Eastern Germany was that every young man had to serve a certain time in the army. There was the opportunity to do unarmed service, but there was no option out. It was literally serve or go to jail. Also, doing unarmed service came with a ton of stigma, so most people just did the normal thing. Since my dad wanted to study theology and become a pastor, he absolutely was against the system he lived in, his government, their army, and the thought of shooting, but he did the normal service anyway. Not because of the stigma, but to be able to relate to the men he'd be responsible for as a pastor. So to the army he went. Now the guys there already knew he wanted to study theology, which wasn't completely forbidden, but it was looked down upon and came with some difficulties. So the officers didn't like him very much. A few weeks in, my dad got stopped by an officer who then proceeded to berate him that his hair was too long, that he looked like a hippie, forbidden Western influence, and that it didn't look tidy, and that he should go to the hairdresser as soon as possible to have his hair cut so it would fit the regulations. Dad didn't argue, although his hair wasn't really too long. He just asked for a copy of said regulations so he could make absolutely sure that his next haircut would fit. And they gave him one. Standard was that the soldiers had a normal looking haircut so they wouldn't look like the soldiers of enemy number 1, the USA. This was back in the 80s, so Cold War and everything. However, that wasn't specified in the regulations. The regulations only specified the maximum length for the hair of the soldiers at a certain distance around the ears that should be hair-free, and of course my dad noticed that. He went to the hairdresser as soon as he could, told him how much space he needed to clear around his ears, and then told him to give him a buzz cut. A short buzz cut. like an American soldier. They hesitated at first, but they did it, and my dad put his hat back on and returned to his army base. The officer who had told him to get a haircut was pleased, until my dad took off his hat. It must have been glorious. He and every other officer on the base was absolutely furious, but they couldn't do anything. Couldn't punch him, couldn't make him grow his hair back, nothing. The haircut fit the regulations to the letter. And my dad is a stubborn man. So he spent the rest of his service time walking around the army base looking like an American in the wrong uniform. So yesterday I wanted to drive home after work. I work as a mechanic, like I always do. One of my friends who lives near that workshop asks me if we want to hang out, and I say yeah, of course. The moment I get in my car, a typical Karen gets out of a car and runs to me. She screams at me,
"Stop stealing that car!"
I said, this is my car. I bought it a few months ago. It's a 350Z, it got different wheels and a small spoiler, plus a different exhaust. She then starts to drag me out of the car and screams,
"Don't lie to me! You can't even drive! You don't have a driver's license!"
I then gave her my license and oh boy, now she starts to go 50% Karen mode on how this is fake and that she will call the cops unless I give this car to her daughter, 10 or 11 years old. I told her if you want to call the cops, do it, Karen. Now 100% Karen mode. She calls the cops and after 5 minutes the cops arrive. Karen instantly runs to one of them and starts screaming,
"This child is stealing my car! Arrest him!"
The cops wants to see my license and so on. And Karen, now super angry, screams,
"No! That's fake! Don't let him drive!"
After she said that, my friend and my co-workers who watch all of this told the cops what exactly happened. One of the cops told Karen, "Follow me. You are under arrest for harassment and for attempted car theft." Then a kid, 15 or 16 years old, tells me that he's sorry for that and that his mom is the biggest Karen in the world. I drove home with my friends and we both wondered what happened there and how many brain cells we lost. Yeah, that was my first encounter with a Karen. And I think I lost 20 brain cells. Not bad. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.